A long-closed school gets a new purpose, sheltering asylum seekers.
We may be the first friendly, welcoming face that they have seen in weeks.
The program, placing more qualified teachers in public schools, gets a boost.
My last career is going to be one where I'm going to make a difference in somebody's life.
And guarding against cybercrimes that net billions of dollars each year.
When urgency happens, some of our common sense goes down.
Hello and welcome to Arizona 360. I'm Lorraine Rivera. Thank you for joining us. This week we return to a familiar issue, how communities can best offer temporary shelter to asylum seekers just released from federal custody. You'll remember it came up last week when Pima County voted to utilize an unused area of a juvenile detention center. That decision has its share of critics. We traveled to Phoenix to see how groups faced with similar challenges found a solution in a former school. South of downtown Phoenix and miles from Sky Harbor Airport, the Ann Ott Elementary School closed its doors to children over a decade ago, but its newest tenants are changing that.
Hi there, Stanford. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for joining us at the Welcome Center.
Now called the Welcome Center, the International Rescue Committee turned it into a shelter for asylum-seeking families in transit through Phoenix. It leases the building from the Phoenix Elementary School District for $500 a month. Community Engagement Director Stanford Prescott gave us a tour.
So here at the Phoenix Welcome Center, we welcome families who are released by the federal government. They all have sponsors somewhere in the U.S., and what we provide is emergency humanitarian assistance to help them along their way. Food, shelter, legal orientation, medical screening, and we also make sure that they are able to arrange travel to visit their families in places in other parts of the United States.
So a former school that's been repurposed that had the right bones to support these needs.
Exactly.
The first weekend it opened in late July, the shelter welcomed 30 asylum seekers belonging to 12 families. All of them left with a clean set of clothes, hygiene products, and toys for children. Items donated and organized in what the IRC calls the ropa room.
I know you just opened, but what has been some of the response when the families walk in here and see that they can essentially pick from anything they need?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of gratitude from the families. Again, they have been through a lot. They're fleeing violence in their home countries. They've made a difficult and sometimes dangerous journey through Mexico to arrive here. They've been in detention facilities here in the U.S., which aren't necessarily the safest. And then they are finally here, and so we may be the first friendly, welcoming face that they have seen in weeks. And so we try and make sure that this is as warm and hospitable as possible.
The IRC collaborates with several other non-governmental organizations to run the Welcome Center, and its work renovating the building remains far from finished.
So given that this is an old school, you've repurposed a lot of the rooms, what's this one that we're about to go in?
Yeah, so we're building out the school in 2 phases, and we've currently completed phase 1, and this will be part of our phase 2 area. This is a sleeping room.
This room is set up as an example for what 14 other sleeping rooms will resemble once new sprinkler systems are installed. The IRC expects work will wrap by the end of the month, increasing capacity at the shelter from 70 to 277 people. Each room has enough cots to sleep 10 people and multiple families.
I know there's always a liability when you have multiple families or people who don't know each other. Now they're in a close, confined space. How do you go about ensuring that people are safe and comfortable in a room like this?
Yeah, so we do have 24/7 staffing here at the site, and so there will always be bilingual staff here to answer any questions or deal with any issues that may arise. We did not have any of those sorts of issues when we were doing shelter operations at different sites where families were interacting with each other on a regular basis. We did not have any sort of those negative interactions.
Other renovations include installing showers, creating more play areas, and setting up a functioning kitchen. For now, St. Vincent de Paul prepares and delivers hot food, and much of the shelter's activity is concentrated in the cafeteria, where families currently sleep and register with volunteers and staff. Colorings by migrant children decorate the room and are a reminder of the families helped by the IRC.
You know, I think to me what it symbolizes is that these children do bring a lot of talent with them. It also, to me, it symbolizes that these kids are kids. I think that's something that gets lost in our debates around immigration and asylum, is that at the end of the day, these are normal children, these are normal parents, these are human beings, and they are just trying to live a life in a safe country.
After our tour, we sat down and discussed the IRC's long-term plans and persisting challenges.
Much of the activity that we've seen along the southern border has been very active over the last few months, but as we know in the summer it tends to dip. Are you concerned about some of the trends that show that people aren't crossing in the numbers they were prior to this?
So that's something we expected. In past years, we've seen a decline in the amount of people arriving in the summer, and so it's not a surprise that that's happening again. For us, we see this as an investment. We expect that numbers will go back up in the fall when it cools down and families continue making that journey. And so we do want to have this space available and ready so that we can welcome those families, so that we don't get a repeat of what happened last year here in the Phoenix area, where families were just being dropped off at the Greyhound bus station.
Prescott says families at the bus station often had no food, money, or a plan for how to get to their next destination. The IRC teamed up with St. Vincent de Paul to open a day center that offered services similar to the Welcome Center. Between March and June, they helped more than 5,000 people.
Given that this is your life work and you're very proud of it, was there a sense of disappointment that perhaps a community wasn't better prepared to handle the influx?
I think that this is, certainly there was a need to handle this response in a more prepared and organized way, and that's something we've contributed to. And I do want to recognize that there have been community groups that have been doing this response for years. However, with the increase in asylum seekers, there needed to be an increase in capacity to serve them as well, and that's how the Air National Rescue Committee stepped in.
NGOs in Tucson faced a similar situation during Easter weekend, when hundreds of migrants brought to the city overwhelmed existing shelters. To prevent families from being stranded, the city of Tucson and Pima County spent thousands of dollars each to open emergency shelters. Prescott says the IRC hasn't received any financial support from the city of Phoenix or the state.
That's got to be disappointing.
It's definitely, we do think that there could be a more organized response from the state and local governments. But again, this is an opportunity to show that the Phoenix community does care about this issue, because the Phoenix community is stepping up to deal with this issue.
Okay, Stanford, thank you.
Thank you.
As the new school year begins, hopes are high for a program aimed at reducing Arizona's teacher shortage. The Arizona Teachers Academy is offered at all three main public universities. As the program enters its third year, it's getting a boost from the state. The Teachers Academy waives students' tuition, and in return they commit to teaching in Arizona for as many years as they receive scholarships, mainly in low-income Title I schools. Combined enrollment more than doubled in its first 2 years, from about 220 students to more than 450. A breakdown of that shows during the last school year, ASU awarded scholarships to 276 students, NAU awarded 160 scholarships, and the U of A awarded 28 scholarships. Now there's room to grow enrollment to 3,000. In May, legislators approved $15 million in funding for the Teachers Academy. We learn more about the program's impact from Arizona Board of Regents Chair Ron Schupman. We should disclose the Regents hold a license to this station. How is the state able to pay for this?
It comes out of the general fund. If you poll Arizonans, one thing they will tell you is they want quality education for the children of this state. Most initiatives to try to put more funding into education get passed by the voters. And I think this is a good example of, we've had no feedback that I'm aware of that anybody's critical of this program. Mostly applause.
Across the country, schools suffer from teachers who maybe 1 to 3 years they leave the teaching career because it's just not something they decide they really want to do. In Arizona, we still have teachers who are leaving the profession. So if you leave after receiving this scholarship, are you on the hook to reimburse the state?
You are. For every year that you fail to fulfill, you'll owe the state back the equivalent amount of money spent on your education.
This looks different at various universities, Arizona State University, U of A. Help me understand why it's maybe offered differently in different programs.
The best thing about a quality program is that it allows the individual institutions to personalize it, to make it fit their programs. U of A has an outstanding master's degree program for teachers. This program allows U of A to do that. NAU really does a lot of work in local communities. Grow your own teacher, and they'll go and put that teacher through training, and that teacher will remain in that community. ASU gets more into early childhood, special needs. All three of them do the basic 4-year bachelor's degree teacher, but each one of them has the ability to innovate, and I think that's a really good characteristic of the program.
Any concern that maybe this sounds a little too good to be true? You get people who think, oh, I can go to a university debt-free, and then I realize I don't like it, and you run into getting the wrong people in front of students.
We find that teachers and people who want to teach are passionate not about the money they're going to make, they're passionate about helping children. Now it's up to us and the school districts to provide the environment for those teachers to prosper. And that's been a problem. Quality leadership in our schools, quality leadership in our districts with fully qualified teachers is the recipe that we're looking for. We want an environment that supports those teachers, and all of us as citizens can do our part. Teachers get criticized for poor performance of students. They get more criticized today than probably at any time in history than my memory. So one of the reasons teachers leave is a failure to feel respected. And when you watch what a teacher goes through today, it's much different and much more challenging than in the past. Teachers want to stay in the classroom. They have the passion to do so if the environment is right.
How do you define success when you think of the Teachers Academy? Where do you see it going?
Well, the success was getting the $15 million this year in order to allow us to grow the program. We doubled, we're about 464 students now in the program, and we're looking to have 3,000 as soon as we can fill that pipeline. This allocation, thanks to Governor Ducey and the legislature, will allow us to grow the program to 3,000 teachers a year, and we have the capacity to grow it beyond that if needed.
So far, is this making a dent in Arizona's teacher shortage?
I think it's making a difference. We've got 180 teachers in the classroom now that we didn't have before. And you know, you really change children's lives one teacher at a time. We know that a couple of years in a classroom with an unqualified teacher really hurts that student's chances of success. For every year that we can put qualified teachers in front of them, it is probably the single greatest investment this state could make, is to ensure that we have an education system from early childhood to post-secondary that is quality at every level of that pipeline, and we can make sure that we address one of Arizona's real challenges, and that is getting more children fully educated and beyond high school. That's a real important thing that we're not as good at as we need to be.
Okay, Chairman Ron Shootman from the Arizona Border Regions, thank you.
Thank you.
After hearing about plans to grow the Arizona Teachers Academy, we wanted a better sense of how it has impacted students accepted into the program. Two people shared their firsthand experiences with us.
We sat down with Caitlin Brenton.
So they were like, you have to teach for 1 year in Arizona. And I was like, cool, I was already planning on doing that.
Who completed her master's degree in May and will soon begin teaching science at Flowing Wells Middle School. And Shauna May, a mother and grandparent who went from a career in sales to starting the program to earn her master's in special education.
I can focus on this program, and the accelerated is for real. It's extremely accelerated.
She's on track to graduate in a year and then plans to teach for the Marana Unified School District.
How much of a relief was it for you to know that you could try a new career, go back to school, at really no cost to you?
I cried when I got accepted. That's how much it meant to me.
And Caitlin, part of this agreement is you have to commit to teaching in Arizona, but at a Title I, a high need, or a rural school. So there are some provisions to this. Any concern about that?
No, because I was student teaching at Flowing Wells High School, and I loved the district. I went there. I loved the school, and so they are like a high need district, and so I ended up getting a job at their junior high, and it's exactly where I wanted to be. So it worked out. It worked out for me pretty well.
Shauna, when you say it's accelerated programming, I mean, I imagine that there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of learning for you coming from a different industry.
Any reservations about stepping into a new territory that you may not be comfortable with?
I've cried a few times. Everybody else in class, I haven't met them in person yet, but I believe every single one of them has worked in special ed, probably as a teacher with their bachelor's degree. And it's scary. I mean, it is scary coming from a different industry, but I did occupational therapy in the past, and they're similar. There's similarities, and so I know that I'll be successful. But I think it is harder when you don't have it as a background in a career.
Caitlin, this program is very new, so there are going to be some growing pains.
Yeah.
Are there some things that, given that you've always had an interest in education, that you think, if the state of Arizona tried this, maybe this would make the program more palatable to people?
You can tell it's kind of in the starting stages, but with my year, the programs seem to become a little bit more organized in terms of being able to help teachers after they've graduated, which is awesome because they've really set us up to be able to have like a mentor outside of the school that we're in. Everyone really talks about the tuition and all of that, but I think it's really cool that they've come up with ways to support you even after you've graduated, because I feel like with a lot of programs, it's just like a see you later, hope you're good. But with this, they see it through and make sure that you feel comfortable and really like excited and that you want to continue teaching, and they try to like reduce some of that stress that's associated with it.
The state has the 20 by 2020 plan, the Teachers Academy. All those things make this worthwhile for you to say, I want to do this because I'm in it for the right reasons.
I want to do it because I want to go home at night, and when the day has been stressful and you want to give up, you can think about that student that you made a difference for and have something to think about at night when you lay your head down on the pillow. That makes you feel good. It's not about lining CEOs' pockets with money. You know, now it's going to be about, my last career is going to be one where I'm going to make a difference in somebody's life, and I really want to do that.
It's nice that you can get a living wage and stuff while teaching, but it's more important to me that you are able to help kids and connect with kids and get them excited for what you're teaching, and I think that's what makes it worth it.
You need to both agree that this is the right move for the state and the children of Arizona.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I had students when I was student teaching like ask me like, why do you want to be a teacher? They don't make any money, and so I think like getting the word out there that it is possible to like make money while being a teacher, even in Arizona, is important, because now it's such a widespread like just fact that, oh, teachers don't make a lot of money. You don't want to be a teacher when you grow up because they don't make a lot of money. And so I think it's important it's going to take a while for kids to learn like, wow, I could be a teacher. I could support myself by being a teacher. You know,
she makes a good point, because when I applied to the college and I told my 13-year-old son, who doesn't know what he wants to be when he grows up yet, but he knows he's going to college. But I told him, I'm so excited. I just applied to the University of Arizona to get my teaching degree. And he said, why do you want to do that, Mom? You're not going to make any money. It was the first thing he said. It wasn't, yay. It was, you're not going to have any money, Mom. Why would you do that? And even at 13 years old, that's the first thing he thinks. I mean, that's not even an adult. So we do have this concept that everyone in Arizona, because it's all over the news, Red for Ed, they're up in Phoenix at the Capitol. All these things are happening for more pay, and I totally agree. Like I said, people that have a bachelor's degree make a lot more anywhere else. But you have to start changing that message. I mean, people need to know about these programs. I'm going to be one of the biggest spokespersons ever for this program, and I'm going to be talking about it forever. I really wish more people knew all of the benefits instead of just the negativity that this is offering all of us.
The financial incentives certainly help.
Absolutely.
Okay, my thanks to both of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
According to a 2018 Gallup poll, Americans are more likely to be a victim of a cybercrime than any of the other top 8 forms of criminal activity. People can fall victim in countless ways, and the information stolen leads to billions of dollars in losses each year. According to the FBI, it's happening more often. We recently got insight into how the agency investigates cybercrimes and emerging trends from Special Agent Michael Foster. How would you describe cybercrime?
Cybercrime is actually any crime that is facilitated by the use of the internet. So it could be actually from an email that comes through or just normal transactions that happen on the internet. Credit card processing happenings, right? We also sign up for bank accounts. Even our local library happens online. So any data or information that can be stolen or leaked through internet usage is considered a cybercrime.
I saw a report through your website that says very costly as well, $2.7 billion in just 1 year alone. Is it on an upward tick?
The dollar amount seems to be going up because of the financial transactions that seem to be targeted, right? We're seeing a lot more business email compromise that happens, which are typically targeting now businesses, not just general persons like you or me. So the financial dollar amounts between buying a home, right, seem to be going up. So yes.
Who seems to be the target?
Everyone, again, regardless of age, everyone. So the elderly in Arizona typically right now, as 2018, make up the largest growing population affected by cybercrime. They're also the largest group affected by gross loss.
If you're a victim, this can be devastating, correct?
It can be, but there are resources out there. If it's a financial loss, we encourage you to call your financial institution first. The faster you act with your financial institution, the faster and the better chances you have of getting some money back. It's not guaranteed, but we encourage you to contact your financial institution first and then local, state, or federal law enforcement officers.
How often are you getting reports from people who say, I think I may have been a victim?
We get them all the time, and we encourage them to actually report in person or anonymously. But we also encourage everyone who feels that may have been a victim to report that to ic3.gov. We can't fight crime unless we know about it. So we encourage everyone, whether you believe you're a victim or you think you're a victim of a crime, to please report that to ic3.gov. So you want to note, again, dates, times, and transactions, any sort of identifying information, which would be a phone number, an email address, whether the person has an accent or not, if there was a phone call, misspellings. Keep a copy of those emails that you have them, right? All that sort of identifying information that you believe, if you would say, a police officer asked you, can you identify this person? Describe them for me. Those types of attributes. Again, online, they just happen to be more numbers based.
What are some of the top cases that you tend to see here in the state of Arizona?
The top 10 are data breaches, like we just previously talked about. And then we have extortion is actually on the rise as well. Extortion typically happens through an email stating that they'll either release some photos or your personal data unless they're paid, right? Some sort of Bitcoin, a virtual currency, or purchases through gift cards, which you would then go out and buy. That is on the rise as well. And then you have non-payment of services or non-delivery. So in other words, me as the scammer would say, I'm going to send you something, but you have to pay me first, right? Or vice versa.
It may be hard to hear, but much of this is common sense.
It is sort of common sense, but we talked about that urgency before. When urgency happens, some of our common sense goes down. We just need people to take a deep breath. Taking that extra 30 seconds may save you thousands of dollars.
Okay, Michael Foster from the FBI, thank you.
Thank you.
Protecting our data online can be difficult depending on how we're used to browsing the web. We learn more about some common bad habits as well as how to break them from Matt Hashem, an expert in security and privacy at the U of A Eller College of Management. Remind our viewers that anytime you use the internet, we're somehow products. Tell me about that.
That's right. I mean, if you go to a website like Facebook or Twitter or Amazon or Google or any of these sites, without picking on any of them, are they free or are you paying for it? So if they're free, they're not just giving that away because it makes them feel good, right? They're giving that away because they use and collect your data and then sell that or use that in other ways to make some money. So
in essence, anytime we make a move on our smartphone or the computer, it's being viewed by some other entity that's using it.
It's possible. Okay. So yeah, so we have to be careful. We don't want to be totally afraid and paranoid about using technology, but we need to know that there's not really this expectation that everything I do is between me and that particular site that I'm going to. There may be some sharing or some use of that data in other ways.
So where's the balance between I want to enjoy the internet, but I also have some level of an expectation of privacy? What can we do?
Think carefully about what you would tell people in person versus what you wouldn't tell people in person. That's kind of a good, I think, general rule of thumb. If I may not tell you very personal details about myself, but I may tell a family member very detailed personal information. And so the stranger or the acquaintance is that person on a Facebook or a Twitter or whatever. So if I don't really feel comfortable sharing that with an acquaintance, I shouldn't put it out there, right? And as far as visiting sites that we want to feel safe about, I would say go with some of the names that you know and trust. I have a funny little example I can share with you. My son came to me the other day and said, "Dad, I really want this game. Look, it's only $25 on this website." I said, "Okay, well, I'll look that up on Amazon because I know they're a reputable retailer." And it was about $50. I said, that's probably too good to be true. And if you think it's probably too good to be true, you probably shouldn't do it.
There are other things like using Wi-Fi in public or authentication measures that sometimes come up. Those are things we ought to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a funny one that, even in my own classes, I try to make my students aware of this. If I'm on public Wi-Fi, and public Wi-Fi meaning I'm at a coffee shop and they're giving free Wi-Fi, or I'm at a restaurant and they're giving free Wi-Fi, or a ball game or whatever, there should not be 100% confidence that someone else is not intercepting my data. So if I'm at a public Wi-Fi, I don't do banking. I don't do business on public Wi-Fi. I guess the one thing I would tell people about account security, any website, is passwords. We need to have strong passwords, but we need to enable what's called two-step authentication, or two-factor or multi-factor. It's labeled many different ways. But I was just looking recently on Google. You go into your Google account, you click on the security tab, and there's an option there to enable two-step authentication. And what that means is the first step is your password, which we're all gonna have passwords. The second step is something else. It's a code. It's something I have to have on my phone. It's a second factor. And so the idea there is if you make it hard for the attacker to get that second factor, that second step, they're gonna move on. They're gonna go attack someone else that only has a password enabled.
You never be too careful.
You can't be too careful, but you want to enjoy technology. So just be aware that there are threats out there and try to make the best decisions that you can.
Okay, Dr. Hashem, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all for now. Thanks for joining us. To get in touch, visit us on social media or send an email to Arizona360@azpm.org and let us know what you think. We'll see you next week.